Wars. The very word usually makes us think of long, bloody conflicts that drag on for years or even decades. World War I, for years. World War II, 6 years. The Hundred Years' War? Well, that one lasted 116 years. And then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, there's a conflict that holds the Guinness World Record for being the shortest war in human history. A war that lasted only 38 minutes. Yes, you heard that right. Shorter than your favorite Netflix episode. Shorter than a soccer match. Even shorter than standing in line behind someone who insists on paying with pennies. How could a war between two nations begin and end before you could even brew a cup of coffee? Let's dive into the bizarre story of the Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896. 38 minutes of chaos, fire, and absurdity. To understand why this war happened, we need to take a look at Zanzibar in the 19th century. Zanzibar, an exotic island off the coast of present-day Tanzania, was far more than just a tropical paradise. It was a crucial hub of global trade and a jewel of the Indian Ocean. The island's greatest treasure? Spices, cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, all grown in abundance. In Europe, these spices were worth their weight in gold. Whoever controlled Zanzibar controlled a spice empire. But spices weren't the only source of wealth. Zanzibar was infamous for the ivory trade, and tragically, also for the slave trade. With money and power flowing through its ports, the island became a place of interest for global empires. By the late 1800s, Britain ruled India and large parts of Africa. For them, Zanzibar was like a gas station on the highway of empire, a vital stop on the way between colonies. And if there's one thing Britain hated, it was losing control over something as important as their tea routes and, well, half the world. In 1893, Sultan Hamad bin Thawani came to power. He was cooperative, pro-British, and didn't cause trouble. London was happy, and everything seemed stable. But on August 25, 1896, Sultan Hamad suddenly died. Officially from illness, but rumors of poisoning spread quickly. The man who immediately seized power was his nephew, Khalid bin Bargash. And here was the problem. Khalid forgot to ask Britain for permission. That was a huge mistake, because the British had gotten used to deciding who sat on the throne. Khalid was ambitious, stubborn, and not the type of man to politely check in with London every time he wanted to open a window. The British quickly declared him illegitimate. Basil Cave, the British consul, sent Khalid a clear message: step down or face war. Khalid refused to back down. Instead, he rallied about 2,800 to 3,000 men. Most of them had outdated rifles, spears, and a handful of cannons that looked like they belonged in a museum. Britain, on the other hand, positioned its warships in the harbor. HMS St. George, HMS Philomel, HMS Rush, and others, modern vessels armed with heavy artillery. On the evening of August 26th, Khalid was given an ultimatum: leave the palace by 9 a.m. the next day, or face destruction. Khalid's response: basically, I'll take my chances. He stayed in the palace with his troops, ready to take on one of the world's most powerful empires. Meanwhile, the people of Zanzibar watched in fear. Streets emptied, markets closed, families fled the city. Everyone knew that morning would bring blood. August 27th, 1896. 9 o'clock sharp. The deadline had passed. British warships waited silently in the harbor. Khalid's flag flew defiantly above the palace. At 9:02 a.m., the order was given. The British opened fire. Within minutes, shells tore into the palace. The roof collapsed, flames engulfed the wooden structures, and chaos erupted. Khalid's soldiers attempted to return fire, but their cannons were so old that some exploded in place, killing their own crews. Panic spread. Soldiers fled into the streets, some leapt into the sea, others simply threw down their weapons. Khalid himself slipped out the back door and fled to the German consulate, which provided him sanctuary. Britain couldn't touch him without sparking an international incident. Meanwhile, Zanzibar's tiny navy, consisting of a single ship, the HHS Glasgow, tried to fight back. But within minutes, it was sunk by British fire. By 9:38 a.m., it was over. The Anglo-Zanzibar War had lasted exactly 38 minutes. A war shorter than your average lunch break. Officially recognized as the shortest war in recorded history. The cost of this lightning war? Around 500 Zanzibaris dead, most killed by the palace bombardment. On the British side, just one single sailor was injured. Not killed, injured. That statistic says everything about the imbalance of power between a colonial empire and a small state. After the war, Britain installed a new sultan, Hamad bin Muhammad, who was loyal and cooperative. Khalid remained under German protection before being exiled to East Africa, where he lived until his death. For Zanzibar, the war meant the end of any real independence. From then on, it remained firmly under British control. And so ended the shortest war in history. 38 minutes of fire, destruction, and chaos. For Britain, it was a quick demonstration of power. For Zanzibar, it was tragedy, hundreds dead, and the loss of sovereignty. This war reminds us that history isn't just about grand battles that last years, but also about bizarre, absurd, and almost comical moments. The Anglo-Zanzibar War lasted less time than your morning coffee break, but its consequences were felt for decades. And maybe that's the real irony of history. Sometimes, the fastest wars leave the longest shadows.